Every life is a story, every moment a chapter. Here on Slow English Stories, we pause to listen.
Welcome to Slow English Stories.
Today we have a classic tale about loyalty.
It is a story about a promise.
A promise that is stronger than magic and even stronger than death.
Let's begin the story of faithful John. In a kingdom of gray stone and old trees, an old king lay dying. The rooms of his castle were quiet. The air was heavy with sadness. The king was not afraid of death. He had only one worry. That worry was his son. The young prince was good and kind, but his heart was quick to feel. He did not always see the dangers of the world. The king called for his most trusted servant. The servant's name was John, but everyone in the castle called him Faithful John. He had served the king his entire life. His loyalty was as strong and as old as the castle walls.
Faithful John came and stood by the old king's bed. The king's voice was soft. It was like dry leaves moving in the wind. "Faithful John," he said, "my time is ending. I am not worried for myself. I am worried for my son. When I am gone, you must be his father. You must teach him what he needs to know. Will you promise me this?" John's heart was full of sorrow, but his voice was steady. "I will not leave him," he answered. "I will serve him with all my heart. I will serve him even if it costs me my life."
A small smile touched the king's lips. "Then I can rest," he said. "There is one more thing. After I am gone, you must show my son the entire castle. Show him all the rooms, all the halls, and all the treasures. But there is one door you must never open for him. It is the last door in the long gallery. Behind that door is a picture of the princess of the golden roof. If he sees her picture, he will fall in love with her so deeply. This love will bring him great danger. You must protect him from this. Promise me." "I promise, my king," said Faithful John. And with that promise, the old king closed his eyes. He found his peace.
The kingdom mourned. When the days of sadness were over, Faithful John went to the young prince. The prince was now the young king. "It is time," he said. "You must see your inheritance." He led the young king through the great castle. He showed him rooms filled with gold and silver. He showed him halls with high, painted ceilings. He showed him vaults that held the treasures of 100 kings. The young king looked at everything with wonder, but he noticed one door that remained closed.
The door was at the very end of a long, quiet gallery. Dust danced in the thin lines of light from the high windows. "Why do we not enter this room?" the young king asked. Faithful John's heart grew heavy. "Your father commanded that this door should stay closed for you," he said. "There is something inside that could bring great misfortune." But the king's curiosity was afire. "What misfortune?" he asked. "If I do not see what is inside, I will have no rest. I will think about it day and night. It will be my certain destruction. I will not leave this spot until you open it.
Faithful John begged him to forget the room. He reminded the king of his promise to his father. But the young king would not listen. His desire to see inside was stronger than any warning. With a sad and heavy heart, faithful John knew he had to choose. He could obey the dead king's words, or he could serve the living king's peace of mind. He chose the living king. He slowly took a large iron key from his pocket. The sound of the key turning in the lock was loud in the silence.
The door opened with a low creak. The room was dark. It was dark except for one spot on the far wall. There a painting hung. It seemed to shine with its own light. It was the portrait of a princess. Her hair was like spun gold. Her eyes were like deep, clear water. Her smile held a beauty that was not of this world. The painting was so perfect, it seemed to live and breathe. The young king stood for a moment. His eyes were wide. Then, without a sound, he fell to the floor. He fell as if his life had left him.
Faithful John rushed to his side. He lifted the young king in his arms. He carried him to his bed. He felt a deep fear in his heart. The misfortune has happened, he thought. How will this end? He gave the king some wine. Slowly, the young man opened his eyes. His first words were a whisper. "Oh, whose beautiful picture is that?" "That is the princess of the golden roof," answered faithful John. The king sat up. His eyes burned with a new fire.
"My love for her is so great," he said. "If all the leaves on all the trees were tongues, they could not speak it. I will risk my life to win her. You are my faithful John. You must help me." Faithful John knew this was the danger the old king had feared. It was very difficult to even see the princess. She lived in a palace far away, across the sea. But he saw the look in his king's eyes. He knew he could not refuse. He thought for a long time. Then he made a plan.
"The princess loves gold," he said. "Everything she owns is made of gold. In your treasury, there are 5 tons of gold. We will take 1 ton. We will have the goldsmiths make wonderful things. They will make golden birds that can sing. They will make strange golden animals. They will make beautiful golden cups and plates. Then, we will sail to her kingdom as merchants. We will try our luck."
The king agreed at once. For days, the sound of hammers filled the castle. The goldsmiths worked day and night. They melted the gold. They shaped it into the most amazing creations. Soon, a great ship was filled with these golden treasures. The king dressed as a rich merchant. Faithful John dressed as his servant. They set sail on the wide, blue sea.
They arrived at the land of the princess of the golden roof. John told the king to wait on the ship. "I will go to the palace," he said. "Perhaps I can bring the princess here." He filled a large cloth with some of the smaller golden objects. He walked to the royal palace. In the courtyard, a beautiful girl was drawing water from a well. She used 2 golden buckets. It was the princess's maid. She saw John and his shining treasures. She asked who he was. "I am the servant of a rich merchant," John said. "He has a ship full of the most beautiful golden things ever made. These are just small samples."
The maid's eyes grew wide. She ran to tell the princess. The princess of the golden roof was curious. She came down to the courtyard. She looked at the golden bird that sang. She saw the tiny golden mouse that could run. She was delighted. "I must see all of your master's treasures," she said. "There are too many to bring here," said faithful John with a clever look. "It would take many days. But if you wish, you can come to our ship. My master would be honored to show you his collection." The princess wanted to see the treasures so much. She forgot to be careful.
She followed faithful John to the ship. The young king was waiting. When he saw her, his heart almost stopped. She was even more beautiful than her portrait. He led her onto the ship. He led her down into the cabin. The golden treasures were displayed there. The princess walked from table to table. Her eyes were full of wonder. She picked up a golden lion. She picked up a tree with golden leaves. She spent hours looking at everything. In her delight, she did not notice the ship had quietly lifted its anchor. She did not feel the gentle movement. The ship began to sail away from the shore.
Only when she had seen every last treasure did she look up. She saw the open sea through the cabin window. A terrible fear seized her. "I have been tricked," she cried. "I have been kidnapped by a merchant. I would rather die." The young king took her hand gently. His voice was full of love. "I am not a merchant," he said. "I am a king, from a land as great as your own. I tricked you only because of my great love for you. The first time I saw your portrait, I fell to the ground as if I were dead."
The princess heard this. She saw the truth in his eyes. Her fear began to melt away. Her heart softened. She saw that he was a good and noble man. She agreed to become his wife. They sailed on across the great sea. Their hearts were full of happiness. Faithful John sat at the front of the ship. He was playing soft music on a flute.
One afternoon, he saw 3 black birds flying toward the ship. They were ravens. They landed on the mast above him. As they sat there, they began to talk to each other. John had a strange gift. He could understand the language of birds. He listened closely. The first raven said, "They think they have won her, but they have not. When they reach the land, a beautiful chestnut horse will run to meet them. The king will want to ride it. If he does, the horse will carry him away into the air. He will never see his bride again."
"Is there no way to save him?" asked the second raven. "Yes," said the first. "If someone else quickly jumps on the horse, he must take the pistol. He must take the pistol from its holster and shoot the horse dead. Then the young king will be saved. But who knows this? And if anyone knows it and tells the king, he will suffer. His body will turn to stone from his feet to his knees.
Then the second raven spoke. Even if the horse is killed, he will not have his bride. In the castle, a beautiful wedding shirt will be waiting. It will look like it is made of gold and silver, but it is really made of sulfur and fire. If he puts it on, it will burn him to his bones. Is there no way to save him? Asked the third raven. Yes, said the second. Someone with gloves on their hands must quickly grab the shirt. They must throw it into a fire. Then the young king will be saved. But if the person who knows this tells him, there is a cost. His body will turn to stone from his knees to his heart.
Then the third raven spoke. Even if the shirt is burned, he will still not have his bride. At the wedding feast, the queen will be dancing. She will suddenly turn pale and fall down as if she is dead. She will die unless someone helps her. Someone must quickly lift her up and carry her to her room. Then they must draw 3 drops of blood from her right breast. And the curse? Asked the first raven. The same, said the third. If the person who knows this tells anyone, he will change. His whole body, from head to foot, will turn to stone.
The 3 ravens then flew away. Faithful John sat in silence. His heart was a block of ice in his chest. He had heard their terrible secrets. To save his king, he had to perform strange and violent acts. And he could never explain why. I promised to be faithful, he thought to himself. Even if it costs me my life, I will save him.
The ship reached the shore. Everything happened as the ravens had said. A magnificent chestnut horse with a shining coat ran towards them. What a beautiful animal, cried the king. I will ride it to the castle. He started to walk towards it. But before he could reach it, faithful John moved like lightning. He jumped onto the horse's back. He pulled a pistol from the holster. He shot the horse. It fell to the ground, dead.
The other servants and the king's court were horrified. They cried out, "What a terrible thing to do! To kill such a beautiful animal!" The king looked at John with confusion and anger. "John, why did you do this?" "I had to," was all John said. But the king defended him. "Let him be," he told the others. "He is my faithful John. He must have a good reason."
They walked to the castle. In the great hall, a beautiful wedding shirt lay on a silver tray. It shone like the sun and the moon. A gift for our king, the courtiers said. The king reached out to touch it. But again, faithful John acted quickly. He put on a pair of thick gloves. He snatched the shirt. He threw it into the great fireplace. The shirt burst into a terrible green flame. It was gone in seconds.
Again the court cried out in anger. The king's face was dark with suspicion. "John, what is the meaning of this?" he demanded. "I had to," John repeated, his voice low. "He is my faithful John," the king said again. But his voice was weaker this time. "He knows what is best."
The wedding took place. The feast was grand. There was music and dancing. The new queen, her face bright with joy, began to dance with the king. Suddenly, in the middle of a turn, her face went white. She stumbled and fell to the floor. She did not move. She did not breathe. A terrible cry went through the hall. But before anyone else could move, faithful John rushed forward. He lifted the queen in his arms. He carried her away from the crowded hall. He carried her into her bedchamber and locked the door.
He gently laid her on the bed. He carefully unfastened the top of her dress. With a small, sharp knife, he drew 3 small drops of blood from her right breast. At that moment, the king, who had followed him in a rage, threw open the door. He saw faithful John leaning over his wife with a knife. To the king, it looked like the ultimate betrayal. His trust, already weak, now shattered completely. "Seize him!" the king roared to his guards. "Throw him in the dungeon. He will be executed tomorrow at dawn."
The next morning, faithful John was brought to the castle square. He stood tall and did not look afraid. He saw the king standing there. The king's face was like stone. "Do you have any last words?" the king asked, his voice cold. "Yes," said faithful John. "I have been judged unfairly, but I have always been faithful." And then he told the king everything. He told him about the 3 ravens on the ship. He told him about the prophecies.
"When I shot the horse," he said, "I was saving you from being carried away forever." As he spoke these words, a strange coldness spread through his body. He looked down. He saw his feet and legs turning to gray stone. The king gasped in horror. "When I burned the shirt," John continued, his voice growing weaker, "I was saving you from being burned alive." The stone crept up past his knees, to his waist, to his heart.
The king fell to his knees. He cried out for John to stop. But John had to finish. "And when I took 3 drops of blood from the queen," he said. His last words were a whisper. "I was saving her life." As he spoke, the stone covered his face. He became a statue, silent and still. He had a look of great sorrow and loyalty frozen forever in his eyes.
The king was filled with a deep grief. He had misunderstood. He had condemned the one person who had loved him enough to die for him. He had the stone statue carried to his own bedroom. He placed it beside his bed. Every day he looked at it and wept. "Oh, my faithful John," he would say, "if only I could bring you back to life." Years passed. The king and queen had 2 children, beautiful twin boys. They grew up playing in the castle. They often looked with wonder at the sad stone statue.
One day, the queen was at church. The boys were playing by the statue. The king sighed and said aloud, "If only I could make you live again." At that moment, the stone statue spoke. Its voice was like the grinding of rocks. "You can," it said, "but you must do something terrible. You must take what you love most in the world, your 2 children. You must cut off their heads. You must cover me with their blood.
The king was struck with horror. To kill his own beloved children? It was an impossible choice. But then he thought of John. He remembered the promise John had made to his father. He remembered the loyalty that had cost John his life. John had given everything for him. Now he had to prove that he understood that same loyalty. With a heart breaking with sorrow, the king drew his sword. He looked at his two innocent sons. He closed his eyes. With one swift movement, he did what the statue had asked. He anointed the cold stone with the blood of his children.
Instantly, life flowed back into the statue. The gray stone softened into skin. Faithful John stood before him, alive and whole once more. John looked at the king's terrible grief. Then he looked at the two small bodies. He smiled a gentle smile. "Your faithfulness is as great as mine," he said. "It will be rewarded." He took the heads of the two boys. He placed them back on their bodies. He touched their necks. In a moment, the wounds were gone. The boys jumped up and began to play again. They acted as if they had only been sleeping.
The king's heart felt like it would burst with joy and relief. He hid faithful John and the two children in a large closet. When the queen returned from church, he said to her, "My dear wife, we can bring faithful John back to life. But it will cost us our two sons. We must sacrifice them." The queen grew pale with fear. But she looked at her husband. She saw the memory of their loyal friend in his eyes. "We owe him everything," she said. Her voice was shaking but firm. "We must do it."
At that moment, the king opened the closet door. Out walked faithful John. Behind him, laughing and running, were their two sons. A great joy filled the room. It was a joy that washed away all the years of sadness. The king, the queen, their children, and their true friend were together again. Their lives were bound not by promises or by magic. They were bound by a loyalty that had been tested by fire and stone. It had proven stronger than death itself.
And that is the story of faithful John.
A powerful story about trust and the incredible price of loyalty.
Thank you for joining us for this tale.
We hope to see you next time on Slow English Stories.